A mother sees her missing son's face in the pool, but he vanished 3 years ago. The reflection smiles at her. Then it whispers her darkest secret. The water shimmered like broken glass under the afternoon sun, and Corinne Thompson stood at the edge of her backyard pool, grocery bags cutting into her palms. She'd been reaching for her keys when she saw it. A face in the water. Hoa's face. The bags dropped. Oranges rolled across the concrete. Corinne's knees buckled, but she couldn't fall, because she was moving forward, stumbling toward the pool's edge, her breath coming in sharp animal gasps. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." The reflection stared back at her. 7 years old exactly as he'd been, dark hair plastered to his forehead. Those wide brown eyes that used to follow her everywhere. The smile she'd seen in her dreams for 3 years, sweet, trusting, alive. Corinne's hand shot toward the water. Her fingers broke the surface, and the image scattered into 1,000 silver fragments. She plunged her arm deeper, shoulder deep, soaking her blouse, searching for something, anything, that would prove she wasn't losing her mind. Nothing, just chlorinated water and the rough texture of pool tiles. "Corinne!" She jerked upward. Her neighbor, Diane Chen, stood at the fence line, concern creasing her face. "I heard something fall. Are you okay?" Corinne's mouth opened, closed, her arm dripped pool water onto the concrete. Yes, I dropped the groceries." Diane's eyes moved from Corinne's soaked sleeve to the scattered oranges to Corinne's face, which she knew must look wild, unhinged. "Honey, maybe you should come inside. It's hot out here." "I saw him." The words came out before Corinne could stop them. Diane's expression shifted, pity mixed with that particular careful kindness people reserved for the grieving. "Oh, Corinne." "In the water, I saw Hoa in the water." "It's the anniversary week, isn't it?" Diane stepped closer, her voice dropping to that gentle, therapeutic tone. 3 years this Thursday. Your mind is playing tricks because you're stressed. It happens." Corinne wanted to scream. Instead, she nodded, picking up her bags with shaking hands. "You're right, just stressed." But as Diane helped gather the scattered fruit, Corinne's eyes kept returning to the pool. The water had gone still again, a perfect mirror reflecting clouds and sky and nothing else. Nothing else. Inside, Corinne dropped the groceries on the counter and went straight to the bathroom. She stripped off her wet blouse, caught her reflection in the mirror. 42 years old, circles under her eyes dark enough to be bruises. Hair that used to be professionally maintained now pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked like what she was, a woman who'd been hollowed out and left standing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, her ex-husband, still picking up Lily at 6. Corinne closed her eyes. Lily, their daughter, 13 now, distant and angry in the way teenagers were, but especially angry at Corinne for reasons neither of them could articulate. "Yes," she texted back. "Another buzz. You forgot last Tuesday." Her jaw clenched. "I'll be there." She wouldn't tell Marcus about the pool. He already thought she was unstable, had said as much during the custody hearings. "She's obsessed," he'd told the judge. "She can't let go. It's affecting Lily." As if letting go was something you did with a missing child. As if she could just decide to stop wondering if Hoa was cold, hungry, scared. If he was even. No, she wouldn't think it. Corinne walked back through the kitchen, past Hoa's school photo on the refrigerator. 7 years old, gap-toothed smile, holding up a drawing of their family. That photo was from 2 weeks before he disappeared from the community pool. Their pool now, the one she'd had installed 6 months ago, despite Marcus calling it unhealthy and Lily refusing to even look at it. Corinne had needed it, needed to face the water, needed to understand. The backyard beckoned. She opened the sliding glass door. The pool sat placid and blue, surrounded by the fence she'd had built regulation height. No one could fall in accidentally. No one could. "Mommy." Corinne's heart stopped. The voice was small, distant, coming from everywhere and nowhere. She spun, searching the yard, the fence line, the neighbors' windows. "Mommy, I'm cold." It was coming from the pool. Corinne ran to the edge. The water rippled though there was no wind, and there just beneath the surface she saw him again, clearer now. Hoa floated suspended, his small body pale and wavering, his eyes open and staring up at her. His mouth moved. "Why did you leave me?" Hoa. Corinne dove. The shock of water, the burn of chlorine in her eyes, the frantic search of her hands finding nothing, nothing. She surfaced, gasping, dove again, deeper this time, until her fingers scraped the pool bottom. Empty. She came up coughing, treading water, her clothes dragging her down. The backyard was silent except for her ragged breathing and the slosh of water against tile. "I'm losing my mind," she said to no one, to the empty air, to God if he was listening. Her phone was ringing inside. She hauled herself out, water streaming, and staggered through the door. She caught it on the last ring. "Corinne Thompson." "Yes." "This is Detective Sarah Morrison, LAPD. We met 3 years ago regarding your son's case." Corinne's hand tightened on the phone. "Did you find something?" "I need you to come to the station. There's been a development." "What kind of development?" A pause. "I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you come now?" "Tell me." "Ms. Thompson, tell me if you found my son." Another pause, longer this time. "A body was discovered this morning, a child's remains, in a reservoir about 40 miles from where Hoa disappeared." The floor tilted. Corinne's back hit the wall, and she slid down until she was sitting in a puddle of pool water on her kitchen tiles. "How old?" "The medical examiner estimates between 6 and 8 years old at time of death. We're running DNA, but there are certain markers that match Hoa's description. The clothing," Morrison's voice caught. "There was a red swim trunk with a cartoon character. You reported Hoa was wearing something similar the day he went missing." Corinne couldn't breathe. The kitchen spun. "When will you know for sure?" 48 hours. I know this is impossibly difficult, but I need you to come in. There are some questions, and we'll need you to provide a reference DNA sample to confirm." "I saw him," the words spilled out. "Just now in my pool, I saw Hoa's face in the water." Silence on the other end. "Ms. Thompson, have you been taking your medication?" Corinne laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "Everyone thinks I'm crazy." "No one thinks that. Grief manifests in different ways, and—" "I'll be there in an hour." She hung up before Morrison could respond. Corinne sat on her wet floor, staring at nothing. 3 years of searching. 3 years of hope burning like acid in her chest. 3 years of marriage collapse and Lily's resentment and Marcus's disappointment and neighbors' pitying looks. And now remains a body, her boy reduced to forensic evidence and DNA markers. She should cry, should feel something other than this numb, distant sensation, like she was watching herself from very far away. Instead, she stood, changed into dry clothes, and grabbed her keys. She was halfway to the car when she heard it again. "Mommy." Corinne stopped, turned slowly. The pool water was moving, not rippling but churning, as if something large was circling just beneath the surface. And in the center, rising like smoke, was a shape. A small figure, translucent and wavering. Hoa stood in the middle of the pool, water streaming from his pale form. His eyes were white, pupil-less. His mouth hung open in a silent scream. Then he raised one small hand and pointed, not at Corinne, but past her. At the house, at the window of the room that used to be his, where a shadow moved behind the curtains. Corinne ran. Corinne hit the back door at full speed, shoulder slamming into the frame as she twisted the handle. The glass rattled but held. Her fingers fumbled with the lock when had she locked it, before the latch finally gave and she crashed inside. "Who's there?" her voice echoed through the empty house. "Who's in my house?" She grabbed a knife from the butcher block, her hand shaking so badly the blade caught the light in stuttering flashes. The hallway stretched before her, leading to what used to be Hoa's room. What was still Hoa's room, despite Marcus's insistence that she turn it into something else, anything else. The door stood ajar, 6 inches of darkness beyond. Corinne's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd closed that door. She always closed that door. Couldn't bear to see the race car bed with its neatly tucked sheets, the toys arranged exactly as he'd left them, the drawings still taped to the walls. "I'm calling the police," she shouted, even though her phone was in her purse by the front door. Even though she was already moving forward, drawn by something stronger than fear. She kicked the door open. The room was empty. Afternoon light filtered through the curtains, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Everything was exactly as it should be, the books on the shelf organized by size, the stuffed elephant on the pillow, the wronged. Something was wrong. The drawings, the ones taped to the wall above his desk, they'd been rearranged. Karen stepped closer, the knife lowering slowly. Hoa had drawn dozens of pictures in the months before he disappeared, typical kid art, stick figures, and crayon suns. But now they'd been moved, repositioned into a pattern she didn't recognize. No, not a pattern, a message. The images formed an arrow, all pointing toward one drawing in the center. Karen's breath caught. She didn't remember this one. A crude house rendered in black crayon, a pool in the backyard, and standing at the pool's edge. A figure too tall to be a child. No features, just a black silhouette with long arms reaching toward something small in the water. Karen's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Her phone rang, the sound sharp and violent in the quiet room. She ran back to the kitchen, snatched it from her purse. Hello? Ms. Thompson, it's Detective Morrison again. Something's come up. Where are you right now? Home, why? I need you to stay there. Lock your doors. I'm sending a patrol car. Karen's chest constricted. What happened? The remains we found. The medical examiner just gave me a preliminary report. Time of death was approximately 72 hours ago. The world stopped spinning. That's impossible, Karen whispered. Hoa disappeared 3 years ago. I know, which means either the remains aren't your son or, Morrison hesitated. Ms. Thompson, is there anyone else who might have had access to Hoa's belongings, his DNA? What are you saying? I'm saying someone went to considerable effort to make us believe these remains belonged to Hoa. The clothing matched perfectly, not just similar but identical down to the manufacturing tags. The age and physical description aligned, but the timeline doesn't work. Karen's legs gave out. She caught herself on the counter. Then where's my son? That's what we need to figure out. But right now, I'm concerned about your safety. This feels orchestrated. Someone wanted us to find that body. Someone wanted to upset you specifically. Marcus, the name came out bitter. This is exactly the kind of thing he'd. We've already spoken to your ex-husband. He was in San Francisco for a business conference when the body was placed. Hotel records confirm it. Karen's mind raced. Then who? That's what I need to ask you. Has anyone been watching your house? Any strange calls, unusual encounters? Karen stopped. The pool, the reflection, the voice. Detective, am I going insane? Tell me the truth. What do you mean? I've been seeing things, hearing things. Hoa's voice in the pool, his face in the water. And just now, someone was in his room. Someone was in your house. I don't know, maybe. The drawings were moved, but I don't know if I'm imagining it or if someone actually. Get out right now. Go to a neighbor's house and wait for the patrol car. But, now Ms. Thompson. Karen grabbed her purse and ran for the front door. She was reaching for the handle when she heard it, a sound from upstairs. The slow, deliberate creak of the floorboards in the master bedroom. She wasn't alone. Karen's hand froze on the doorknob. She should run. Should fling open the door and sprint to Diane's house and let the police handle whatever psychopath was upstairs in her home. But the creaking stopped, and in the silence that followed, she heard something else. Humming. A child's voice humming a melody she recognized, the lullaby she used to sing to Hoa at bedtime. Hush, little baby. Karen's feet moved before her brain could catch up, carrying her toward the stairs. The knife was back in her hand, though she didn't remember picking it up again. Hoa, her voice cracked. Baby, is that you? The humming continued, sweet and innocent and wrong in every possible way. She climbed the stairs, each step an eternity. The master bedroom door stood open. Inside, she could see the edge of her bed, the dresser, the window overlooking the backyard pool. The humming was coming from the bathroom. Karen's hand trembled as she pushed the bedroom door wider. The bathroom light was off, but she could see steam curling out from the gap beneath the door. Someone had run the shower. I know you're in there, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Come out. The humming stopped. The bathroom door swung open slowly, hinges creaking. Empty, the shower ran, water cascading down the glass door, steam filling the small space. But no one was inside. Karen stepped closer. Through the steam-clouded glass, she could see something written on the mirror, letters traced in the condensation, appearing as the fog cleared. Did you really think I drowned? Karen's scream caught in her throat. She stumbled backward and her heel caught on something soft. She looked down. A wet footprint, small, child-sized. Then another and another, a trail of them leading from the shower to the bedroom to the closet. The closet door was cracked open, darkness beyond. Karen could see water dripping from under the door, pooling on the hardwood floor. "This isn't real," she whispered. "This isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't." The closet door exploded outward. A figure lunged from the darkness, adult-sized, wearing all black, face covered by a ski mask. Karen swung the knife wildly, felt it connect with something solid. The figure grunted, grabbed her wrist, twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. Karen fought like an animal, kicking, scratching, screaming. They crashed into the dresser. Her attacker was strong, dragging her toward the window, toward the pool. No, Karen bit down on the hand covering her mouth, tasted blood. The grip loosened for just a second, and she drove her elbow backward, felt ribs crack. Her attacker stumbled. Karen ran for the door, but a hand grabbed her ankle, and she went down hard, chin cracking against the floor. Stars exploded across her vision. She was being dragged backward, across the floor, toward the window. Karen's fingers scrabbled for purchase, finding nothing but smooth hardwood. The window was open now, when had it opened, and she could see the pool below, its surface churning and dark despite the afternoon sun. "Why?" she gasped. "Why are you doing this?" The figure leaned close. When it spoke, the voice was distorted, mechanical, filtered through something. "Because you need to remember what you did." "I didn't do anything. I didn't hurt my son." "Didn't you?" Karen was halfway out the window now, dangling, the pool looming below. "Please, please, I don't understand." "Then look." The figure released her. Karen fell. The world became a blur of sky and house and blue water rushing up to meet her. She hit the surface with brutal force, the impact driving the air from her lungs. Water closed over her head. She kicked frantically, trying to find which way was up, but the water was wrong, thick and dark, and pulling her down like hands, like dozens of small hands dragging her toward the bottom. Her lungs screamed. She needed air, needed to. Something grabbed her ankle. Karen looked down into the darkness and saw him. Hoa, but not the Hoa from her memories. This Hoa was bloated and pale, his skin slewing off in strips, his eyes milky white. His mouth opened in a soundless scream and bubbles streamed out, rising past Karen's face. He pulled her deeper. Karen's vision started to gray at the edges. She could see the surface above, bright and distant and impossibly far away. She was going to die here, in the pool, just like. The memory hit her with the force of a freight train. 3 years ago, the community pool, Hoa running along the edge despite her telling him to walk. Her phone ringing, a work call important, her boss threatening to fire her if she didn't close this deal. She turned away for just a second, just 1 second. The splash, the silence, the awful, terrible silence. And when she'd turned back, Karen's eyes flew open underwater. No, that wasn't how it happened. Hoa had disappeared from the locker room. He'd gone to change, and when she went to check on him, he was just gone. That's what she told the police. That's what she remembered. Wasn't it? The Hoa thing's grip tightened. His mouth moved, forming words she could somehow hear through the water. "You let me die." No, Karen tried to scream, but water rushed into her mouth, choking her. "You were on the phone, you weren't watching, and I drowned." "That's not, I didn't." "And then you lied." Something else broke the surface above, a dark shape diving in, arms reaching. The Hoa thing released her suddenly, dissolving into shadows and bubbles. Strong hands grabbed Karen under the arms and hauled her upward. They broke the surface together. Karen gasped and coughed and vomited pool water onto the concrete as her rescuer pulled her out. She collapsed on the warm pavement, her vision swimming. Ms. Thompson, can you hear me?" A woman's voice. Karen blinked water from her eyes and saw Detective Sarah Morrison crouching over her, dripping wet, her badge glinting in the sun. "Someone," Karen choked out. "Someone pushed me from the window. They were in my house." "I know, we saw them run out the back. Officers are in pursuit." Morrison wrapped a towel around Karen's shoulders. "You're safe now." But Karen wasn't listening. She was staring at the pool, at her own reflection in the now calm water. Except it wasn't just her reflection. Standing behind her in the reflection, though no one was there when Karen whipped around, was Hoa. Dry, whole, smiling sadly. And in his small hand, he held a phone, Karen's phone, the one she'd been using that day at the community pool. The screen showed a call log, a timestamp from 3 years ago. Duration, 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The exact amount of time it takes for a 7-year-old to drown. Karen lunged for the pool's edge, reaching for the reflection, but Morrison caught her arm. "Ms. Thompson, stop. You nearly drowned. You need medical attention." "You don't see him," Karen's voice broke. "He's right there. He's showing me." "There's no one there." Morrison's grip tightened firm but not unkind. "You're in shock. The paramedics are on their way." Karen looked back at the water. The reflection was gone. Just her own face stared back, pale, wild-eyed, a woman unraveling. "I need my phone," she whispered. "My phone from 3 years ago. Where is it?" "What?" "The phone I had the day Hoa disappeared. Where is it? Did the police keep it as evidence?" Morrison's expression shifted, becoming carefully neutral. "We returned your personal effects after the initial investigation. You would have gotten it back." "I need to see the call logs from that day." "Ms. Thompson." "Now, please." Karen grabbed Morrison's hand. "Something happened that day, something I can't remember, or something I won't let myself remember. But it's connected to all of this, the body you found, the person who just tried to kill me, everything." Morrison studied her for a long moment, then stood. "Stay here, don't move." She walked to the house, spoke briefly with the uniformed officers who'd arrived, then returned with Karen's purse. "Your current phone, check your cloud backups. If you've had the same carrier, the records might still be there." Karen's hands shook as she unlocked the phone. She navigated through menus she barely understood, finally finding archived call logs. She scrolled back, 2 years, 3 years. There. The day Hoa disappeared, June 14th, 2022. 2:47 p.m., incoming call from Brad work, duration 4:37. The time matched the gap in her memory. The time when Hoa had supposedly gone to the locker room, the time when her world had ended. But there was something else. Another call 3 minutes later. 2:54 p.m., outgoing call to 911. Duration 0:23. 23 seconds. Karen's stomach turned to ice. "I called 911. "Of course you did, when you discovered Hoa was missing." "No," Karen looked up at Morrison. "I called them 23 seconds before I discovered he was missing. How did I know to call if I didn't know he was gone yet?" Morrison's face went very still. "Let me see that." Karen handed over the phone. The detective's eyes moved rapidly across the screen, her jaw tightening. "This doesn't make sense," Morrison said quietly. "According to your original statement, you realized Hoa was missing at approximately 3:15 p.m. when he didn't come out of the locker room. You said you searched for him, asked the lifeguards for help, and then called 911 at 3:47 p.m. Then why does my phone say I called at 2:54? "I don't know, but we need to pull the actual 911 recording." Morrison was already dialing. "This is Detective Morrison, badge number 4782. I need the emergency call recordings for June 14th, 2022 from caller." She read off Karen's old number. "Yes, I'll hold." Karen stood on shaking legs, the towel falling from her shoulders. The afternoon sun felt too hot, too bright. Everything was too much. The smell of chlorine, the sound of wind chimes from Diane's yard, the wet slap of her footsteps as she walked back to the pool's edge. She needed to see, needed to understand. "Hoa," she called softly. "Baby, if you're here, if you're trying to tell me something, please, please show me again." The water remained still. Morrison's voice drifted over. "Yes, I'm still here, you're sure. Check again, this is a pause. "I understand, thank you." She walked back to Karen, her expression grim. "There's no record of any 911 call from your number on June 14th, 2022. "But my phone." "I saw the log, but the 911 center has no corresponding record, which means either your phone's data is corrupted or someone altered the records." A new voice cut in. Both women turned. A man stood at the fence gate, tall and lean, wearing an expensive suit despite the heat. Salt and pepper hair, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He radiated authority and something else, danger, carefully concealed. "Who the hell are you?" Morrison's hand moved instinctively toward her weapon. Thomas Brenner, I'm an attorney. He produced a business card, slid it through the fence. And I represent someone who has information about what happened to Hoa Thompson. Corinne's heart stopped. You know where my son is. I know what happened to him, and I know why someone just tried to kill you. Brenner's eyes moved to Morrison. Detective, you're going to want to hear this, but not here. Too many listening ears. Morrison picked up the business card, studied it. Brenner and Associates, corporate law, what's your interest in this case? My client was at the community pool the day Hoa Thompson disappeared. He witnessed something that certain people would kill to keep quiet. Then he needs to come forward, make an official statement. He's afraid for his life, as Ms. Thompson should be. Brenner looked directly at Corinne. You saw something that day, something you don't remember, and someone has gone to extraordinary lengths to make sure you never do. Corinne moved closer to the fence. What did I see? Not here, Brenner repeated. My client will only speak with you directly. Tonight, there's a cafe on Melrose, corner of. Absolutely not. Morrison stepped between them. Ms. Thompson is a potential target. She's not meeting anyone anywhere without police protection. Then she'll never know the truth. My client won't talk to the police. He has his reasons. Is this a shakedown? Morrison's voice went hard. Because if you're here trying to extort a grieving mother, I'm here trying to keep her alive. Brenner pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and held it up. The image showed a photograph, grainy, taken from a distance. The community pool. The date stamp read June 14, 2022, 2:48 p.m. In the foreground, a woman stood with her back to the camera, phone pressed to her ear. Corinne recognized her own sundress, her own hair pulled back in a ponytail. In the background, at the pool's edge, a small figure, Hoa. And behind Hoa, partially obscured by an equipment shed, another figure. An adult, moving toward the boy with something in their hands. Corinne's vision blurred. Who is that? Come tonight and find out. 8 p.m. The cafe is public, well lit. Bring Detective Morrison if you want, but come. Brenner pocketed his phone. Because whoever tried to drown you today, they're going to try again, and next time you might not be so lucky. He walked away before either woman could respond, disappearing around the corner of the house. Morrison was already on her radio, calling for units to intercept, but Corinne knew they wouldn't catch him. He'd timed it perfectly, arrived when the other officers were canvassing the neighborhood, left before they could return. It's a trap, Morrison said flatly. Everything about this screams setup. But what if it's not? Corinne couldn't look away from where Brenner had stood. What if he really knows what happened? Then he can come to the station like a normal witness. You heard him, he won't. Because he's running a con, or he's the one who tried to kill you and this is round 2. Morrison turned to face Corinne fully. Think about it. Mystery lawyer shows up right after you nearly died, claims to have evidence, won't go through official channels. This is textbook manipulation. Corinne wanted to argue, but her phone buzzed before she could speak. A text from an unknown number. Check your son's room, under the floorboard beneath his bed. The truth is there, always has been. She showed Morrison, who immediately radioed for the crime scene techs still processing the house. No one goes in that room until we've cleared it. Could be another trap. Or it could be answers. Corinne was already moving toward the house. Ms. Thompson, stop. But Corinne didn't stop. Couldn't stop. She pushed past the officer at the door, ignoring Morrison's shouts, and ran down the hallway to Hoa's room. The crime scene tech, a young woman with latex gloves and an evidence kit, looked up in surprise. Ma'am, you can't. Under the bed, there's a loose floorboard. Corinne dropped to her knees, shoving aside the race car bed with strength she didn't know she had. Step back, please. Morrison had caught up, slightly out of breath. She nodded to the tech. Check it, carefully. The tech ran a scanner over the floor, checking for wires, devices, anything dangerous. It's clear. There is a hollow space, though. She pried up the floorboard with a crowbar. Inside was a metal box, fireproof, locked. Do you know what this is? Morrison asked Corinne. No, I've never seen it before. The tech photographed it from every angle before carefully lifting it out. The lock was simple, the kind you could open with a paperclip. Inside, a thumb drive, a single photograph, and a child's bracelet, blue beads spelling out HOA. Corinne's hand flew to her mouth. That's his. He was wearing it the day he disappeared. The police said, "You told me you never found any physical evidence." Morrison's face had gone pale. She picked up the photograph with gloved hands. It showed a man standing at a pool's edge. The same man from Brenner's photo, the figure behind Hoa. But this image was clearer, taken from a different angle. Corinne's world tilted sideways. She knew that man. "That's Brad," she whispered. "Brad Hoffman, my old boss, the one who called me that day." Morrison was already moving. "We need to get you somewhere safe. Now, pack a bag, The lights went out. Every light in the house simultaneously. The afternoon sun still streamed through the windows, but suddenly the house felt different, darker, wrong. "Everyone out," Morrison commanded. "Now." But before anyone could move, Corinne heard it, from the pool, through the open window. Splashing. Not the gentle lap of water. The violent thrashing of something fighting their way to the surface. Corinne ran to the window. A figure broke through the water, small, child-sized, wearing red swim trunks with cartoon characters. But it wasn't Hoa. The face was wrong, distorted, features blurred and running like wet paint. It climbed out of the pool with jerky, puppet-like movements, water streaming from its form. And it turned to look directly at Corinne. When it opened its mouth, multiple voices poured out, children's voices, young and terrified and angry. "He took us, all of us, and you helped him." Corinne's scream died in her throat. Because behind the figure, more shapes were emerging from the pool. 1, 2, 5, 10. A dozen small forms, all dripping, all wrong, all climbing out of the water that shouldn't be able to hold them. All staring at the house. All starting to walk forward. Morrison's service weapon cleared its holster in one smooth motion. "Everyone back! Get to the vehicles now!" But Corinne couldn't move. She stood frozen at the window, watching the figures advance across her backyard. They moved in perfect synchronization, their wet footsteps leaving dark prints on the concrete. As they came closer, she could see their faces more clearly, or what should have been their faces. Each one wore Hoa's features like a mask, but wrong. Eyes too far apart on one. Mouth stretched too wide on another, like photocopies of photocopies, degrading with each iteration. "They're not real," the crime scene tech whispered behind her. "They can't be real." The lead figure reached the sliding glass door. Its hand, too many fingers, Corinne noticed with rising horror, pressed against the glass. Where it touched, frost spread in crystalline patterns. "Ms. Thompson, we need to leave." Morrison grabbed Corinne's arm. "Whatever this is." "They're his victims." Corinne's voice sounded distant to her own ears. "Brad's victims, that's what they're trying to tell me. There weren't just one, there were 12. The figure's mouth moved. The voice that emerged was Hoa's, but layered with others, a chorus of the dead. "You saw us, you saw what he did, but you chose not to remember." Corinne's knees buckled. Morrison caught her, but the weight of understanding was crushing. "The phone call. Brad called me to distract me. He wanted me looking away. And when you finally looked back, I saw him, I saw Brad in the water with Hoa." The memory came flooding back, 3 years of suppression crumbling. "He was holding Hoa under. I screamed. I dropped my phone. I ran toward the pool, but..." The glass door exploded inward. The figures poured through in a wave of freezing water and reaching hands. Morrison fired 3 shots, but the bullets passed through without effect, embedding in the far wall. "Go, go, go!" Morrison shoved Corinne toward the hallway as the tech bolted for the front door. Corinne ran, Morrison right behind her, the sound of splashing footsteps and that awful multi-voiced whispering echoing through the house. They burst out the front door into the late afternoon sun, where 3 patrol cars had just pulled up. "We need backup," Morrison shouted, "and someone call." She stopped. The officers weren't moving. They sat in their cars, completely still, staring straight ahead. Morrison ran to the nearest vehicle, yanked open the door. The officer inside was soaking wet, water pooling in the driver's seat. His eyes were open but unseeing, his skin pale and pruned like he'd been submerged for hours. "Jesus Christ!" Morrison checked his pulse, weak but there. "He's alive, they're all alive, but..." The radio crackled. All 3 car radios simultaneously, voices overlapping. You helped him take us, you helped him kill us." "I didn't," Corinne screamed at the cars, at the house, at the sky. "I tried to stop him, I tried to save Hoa." But you didn't call 911, not for 23 minutes, not until he was gone. The memory sharpened, became crystal clear. Brad pulling Hoa's limp body from the pool. Brad looking directly at Karen, his face calm, almost apologetic. Brad saying something. What had he said? He told me it was an accident. Karen's voice broke. He said Hoa had been playing, had hit his head, that he'd tried to help, but it was too late. And I believed him. God help me, I believed him because I couldn't accept that I'd looked away, that I'd been on the phone when my son needed me. He took us from the pool, one by one, and you were always there, always on your phone, always looking away. Morrison was pulling up something on her own phone, her face growing more horrified by the second. Karen, how long did you work for Brad Hoffman? 2 years, why? There were 6 missing children cases from community pools in Los Angeles County during those 2 years. 6. Morrison's hand was shaking. All boys between ages 6 and 8, all disappeared while their parents were distracted. The cases went cold because there was never any evidence, never any witnesses. No, Karen shook her head violently. No, I would have known, I would have remembered. Unless he made sure you didn't. Morrison pulled up a photo on her phone, a news article from 4 years ago. Brad Hoffman, former pharmaceutical executive, fired for unauthorized testing of experimental compounds, specifically compounds designed to affect memory formation and recall. The world spun. Karen grabbed the hood of the patrol car to steady herself. He drugged me. Probably, every time you witnessed something, he'd find a way to cloud your memory. Maybe in your coffee, your lunch. And then he'd reshape what you remembered, make you doubt yourself, make you think you'd looked away when you hadn't. The front door of the house slammed open. The figures emerged, moving faster now, more purposeful. They spread out across the lawn, forming a semicircle around Karen and Morrison. The tech's voice crackled over Morrison's radio. Detective, I'm in my car down the street. I grabbed the evidence from the room, the thumb drive. I think you need to see what's on it. Is it safe to open? It's just video files, dated. The oldest is from 4 years ago. Morrison looked at Karen, then at the advancing figures. Send the first one to my phone, now. 30 seconds later, Morrison's phone buzzed. She opened the video, tilted the screen so Karen could see. The footage was grainy, clearly taken from a hidden camera. A community pool. A woman, Karen, younger, wearing a business suit, sat at a table near the pool's edge, laptop open, phone pressed to her ear. In the background, children played in the water. The timestamp read August 3rd, 2021. Karen watched herself, engrossed in her phone call, completely oblivious as a man entered the frame. Brad. He walked past her table, dropped something in her open water bottle so smoothly she never even glanced up. 20 minutes later, the video showed a small boy, not Hoa, someone else's son, climb out of the pool and head toward the locker rooms. Brad followed. The boy never came back out. And video Karen, after finishing her call, had simply packed up her laptop and left. She hadn't noticed, hadn't seen, had forgotten she'd even been there. He used you as cover. Morrison's voice was hollow. You were his alibi, a working mother, busy and distracted, who could be at the scene without remembering anything useful. He probably called you, gave you projects that required you to work from public pools during summer. Karen's sobs were silent, her body shaking so hard she could barely stand. How many times did I? 12, the voice came from directly behind her. Karen whirled. Thomas Brenner stood there, but his suit was wet now, clinging to his frame. Water dripped from his hair. When he smiled, his teeth were too white, too sharp. 12 children, Mrs. Thompson. My son was the first. 4 years ago. I've been watching Brad Hoffman ever since, building my case, waiting for proof. He gestured to the figures surrounding them. They've been waiting too, trapped between worlds, unable to move on because the truth was buried. You're not a lawyer. Morrison's gun was up again. Who are you? I told you, Thomas Brenner. I was a lawyer. Before my son disappeared and the police called it an accident, before my wife killed herself from grief, before I spent every penny I had investigating the man who destroyed my family. His eyes, they were changing color, shifting from brown to something pale and milky, fixed on Karen. Brad made a mistake with you. He tried to use you one too many times, with your own son, and something in you fought back, some part of you remembered. The pool, Karen understood now. I built the pool to remember. Some part of me knew I needed to face the water to see. To see us? The Hoa figure spoke with Brenner's son's voice. "We've been trying to show you every day, every night, the truth in the water." Morrison's radio crackled again. "All units be advised. We have a location on Brad Hoffman, 2847 Riverside Drive. SWAT is moving in now." But Brenner was shaking his head. "They won't find him. He knew this was coming. He's been planning his exit for months." "How do you know that?" Morrison demanded. "Because I've been inside his house. I've seen his files, his trophies, his plans." Brenner pulled a phone from his pocket, not his expensive smartphone from earlier, but an old flip phone. He tossed it to Morrison. "Everything you need is there. Bank accounts in the Caymans, passport photos under 3 different names, and a plane ticket for tonight. He's running." Morrison caught the phone. "Where?" "Mexico City. Flight leaves LAX at 9 p.m. Brenner checked his watch. "You have 90 minutes. Karen found her voice. "The cafe, you never planned to meet me there." "No, I planned to give you the truth. Whether you survived learning, it was up to you." Brenner's form was becoming translucent now, water running down his face in continuous streams. "My work is done. The evidence is in the open. The dead can speak." "Wait," Karen stepped forward. "Your son, what was his name?" "Jacob, he was 7. He liked dinosaurs and swimming," and Brenner's voice cracked, became fully the voice of a child. "And his daddy, he liked his daddy." The figure that had been Brenner dissolved into water, splashing onto the pavement. The other figures began to fade too, their forms losing cohesion. But before they disappeared entirely, each one turned to look at Karen. The judgment in their eyes was terrible, but underneath it was something else. Understanding, forgiveness, release. "I'm sorry," Karen was crying openly now. "I'm so sorry. I should have seen. I should have stopped him." The lead figure, the one that wore Hoa's face, reached out a translucent hand. Karen took it, gasping at the cold. "Find him," the children's voices whispered. "Make him pay, and then we can rest." "I will, I promise." The figures evaporated like morning mist, leaving only puddles of pool water on the grass. Karen stood in her front yard, surrounded by unconscious police officers and one very shaken detective, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon. Morrison was already on her phone, calling her captain, coordinating with airport security. But she paused, looked at Karen. "What you went through, what he did to you, none of that is your fault." "Isn't it?" Karen's voice was empty. "I was there, every time. I could have stopped him if I'd just looked up from my phone, just paid attention." "He drugged you, he manipulated you. He was a predator and you were another one of his victims. Tell that to the parents of those 12 children." "I will when we catch him." Morrison's jaw set with grim determination. "Are you coming?" Karen looked back at her house, at the pool visible through the gate, at the life she'd built trying to remember what she'd forced herself to forget. "Yes," she said, "I'm coming." They left the crime scene to the responding units and drove toward LAX in Morrison's unmarked car, sirens wailing. The sun painted the sky in shades of orange and red as they wove through traffic. Karen's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Where are you? You were supposed to pick up Lily an hour ago." Lily, in everything that had happened, Karen had forgotten about her daughter. She called Marcus, but it went to voicemail. She tried Lily's phone, same thing. A cold feeling settled in her stomach. "Morrison, call the station. Have them send a car to my ex-husband's house." "Why?" "Because Brad knows I have a daughter, and if he's planning to run." Karen's phone buzzed again, not Marcus this time, unknown number. She answered it. "Hello, Karen." Brad's voice was calm, pleasant, exactly as she remembered from hundreds of business calls. "I see you've been having quite the day." "Where's my daughter?" "Lily, she's right here with me. Such a lovely girl. Reminds me so much of her at that age." Karen's hand clenched around the phone so hard the screen cracked. "If you touch her." "I won't, not if you do exactly what I say. Come to LAX. Gate 67B, come alone. If I see police, Lily takes a very long swim in a very deep pool. Do you understand?" "Let me talk to her." A pause, then, "Mom." Lily's voice was terrified but trying to sound brave. "Mom, don't." The line went dead. Morrison had heard everything. She was already radiating ahead, coordinating with airport security, but Karen could see the calculation in her eyes. The risk. The impossibility of taking Brad down without endangering Lily. "I have to go in," Karen said. It's the only way. You're not trained for this. Let's SWAT. He won't wait for SWAT. He'll kill her the moment he sees them coming. Karen met Morrison's eyes. Those 12 children are dead because I wasn't paying attention. I won't let Lily become number 13. Morrison's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Finally, she nodded. Okay, but you're wearing a wire and you're not going in unarmed. At the airport in a security office, they outfitted Karen with a nearly invisible microphone and earpiece. Morrison handed her a small pistol. Do you know how to use this? Marcus took me to the range, after Hoa, when I was afraid of everything. Good safety here, aim center mass, don't hesitate. Morrison gripped Karen's shoulder. We'll be right behind you. The moment you have Lily clear, drop to the ground. We'll handle the rest. Karen nodded, tucked the gun into the small of her back, and walked into the terminal. Gate 67B was in the international terminal. She moved through the crowds of travelers, her heart hammering, Morrison's voice a steady presence in her ear. We have eyes on you. Keep moving. Gate is ahead on your right. The gate was crowded, a flight to Mexico City about to board. Karen scanned the faces, looking for. There, in the corner, Brad sat calmly, reading a newspaper, looking for all the world like any other businessman catching a flight. Beside him, slumped in her seat with her head on his shoulder, was Lily. Karen started forward, but Morrison's voice stopped her. Wait, something's wrong. Lily isn't moving. Brad looked up, met Karen's eyes across the crowded gate, and smiled. He said something Karen couldn't hear over the noise. Lily didn't respond. He drugged her, Karen whispered, just like he drugged me. She moved closer. Brad stood, keeping Lily propped against him. To anyone watching, they looked like a father with his sleeping teenage daughter. That's close enough, Brad said when Karen was 10 feet away. Any closer and I put enough sedative in her to stop her heart. Let her go. This is between you and me. Is it because from where I'm standing, you're the reason I'm running? You couldn't just stay repressed. You had to remember. He shook his head, almost disappointed. I chose you because you were perfect, busy, distracted, drowning in work and guilt. You'd look right past anything I did. You murdered children. I solved a problem. Do you know how many kids drown every year? Thousands. I just helped the statistics along. Parents like you who care more about their phones than their children. He stroked Lily's hair and Karen's finger moved toward the gun. Don't. We're surrounded by witnesses. You pull that gun, airport security shoots you before you take 2 steps. Morrison's voice. He's right. Stand down. We're working on a clear shot, but there are too many civilians. What do you want? Karen asked. My flight. You're going to let me board. And in 24 hours, when I'm safely in a country with no extradition treaty, I'll tell you where to find Lily. You'll kill her the moment you're clear. Maybe, maybe not. That's the gamble you'll have to take. Brad smiled. Because if you try to stop me now, she dies for certain. I have a syringe in my pocket, one push, and it's over. The gate agent announced boarding for first class. That's me, Brad said. So nice seeing you again, Karen. Give my regards to your dead son. He started to turn, pulling Lily with him. And Karen saw it. In the reflection of the window behind Brad, the glass that showed the tarmac and plains beyond. Hoa stood there. The real Hoa this time, not the distorted figure from the pool. Just her little boy, 7 years old, smiling at her. He pointed to Brad's pocket, the left one. Karen understood. Brad, wait. He paused. You're right about everything. I was a terrible mother. I did choose work over Hoa. And maybe he's better off. She broke down sobbing, loud enough to make people stare. Brad's expression shifted to contempt. His guard dropped for just a second as he reached to grab his boarding pass with a hand that wasn't holding Lily. Karen moved. Not toward Brad, toward Lily. She grabbed her daughter and pulled, throwing her own body weight backward. They both fell, Karen twisting to take the impact. Brad's hand came out of his pocket, syringe glinting. Morrison's voice, now take the shot. The window behind Brad exploded. A SWAT sniper's bullet took Brad in the shoulder, spinning him around. The syringe flew from his hand, skittering across the floor. Chaos erupted, people screaming, running, airport security converging. Morrison burst through the crowd, weapon drawn, shouting commands. Brad fell to his knees, blood spreading across his shirt. He looked at Karen with something like admiration. You remembered, you finally remembered. Every second, Karen said coldly. Every single second of what you did. Flight 447 to Mexico City is now delayed. The gate agent's voice crackled uncertainly over the PA. Brad laughed, then coughed blood. 12 kids, and you know what? I'd do it again. Their parents didn't deserve them. None of you do. Morrison's boot caught him in the face, silencing him. Brad Hoffman, you're under arrest for 12 counts of murder, 12 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of being a waste of human fucking life. Paramedics rushed in for Lily. Corinne rode with her daughter in the ambulance, holding her hand, whispering apologies and promises into her unconscious daughter's ear. At the hospital, as they wheeled Lily into the ER, Marcus came running. His face was a mess of fear and confusion and anger. What happened? What the hell happened? Corinne told him everything. The pool, the memories, Brad, all of it. When she finished, Marcus just stood there, tears running down his face. I'm sorry, Corinne whispered. For everything, for Hoa, for... Marcus pulled her into a fierce hug. He drugged you, he manipulated you, none of it was your fault. Then why does it feel like it was? Because you're a mother, and mothers blame themselves for everything. They stood in the harsh hospital light, 2 broken people trying to figure out how to be whole again, until a doctor came out to tell them Lily would be fine. 3 days later, Corinne stood in her backyard watching workers fill in the pool. Detective Morrison had suggested it. Fresh start, she'd said. New memories. Lily was home, recovering. Marcus had moved back in temporarily, sleeping on the couch, helping Corinne navigate the police interviews and press inquiries and psychiatrist appointments. Brad Hoffman was in the hospital prison ward, under 24-hour guard, facing 12 counts of first-degree murder. The thumb drive had contained everything: videos, trophies, detailed logs of each kill. He'd kept records like it was a business. Because to him it had been. The pool was almost empty now, workers pumping out the last of the water. Corinne stood at the edge, looking down at the exposed bottom. No reflections, no ghosts, just concrete and drain covers and the echo of splashing that would probably haunt her forever. Mom. Lily stood at the back door, wrapped in a blanket despite the heat. She looked small, younger than 13, fragile. Yeah, baby. Was Hoa really there, in the pool? Corinne thought about lying, thought about protecting her daughter from the impossible truth. But she'd spent 3 years lying to herself. She was done with that. Yes, I think he was trying to help me remember, help me save you. Lily nodded slowly, then walked over and took Corinne's hand. Together they watched the workers fill in the pool, covering the water, burying the past. But as they turned to go back inside, Corinne caught one final glimpse in the kitchen window's reflection. 12 children stood in her backyard, holding hands. 12 boys, all smiling, all at peace. And in the center, Hoa, her Hoa. He raised his hand in a small wave. Then they faded like morning mist and were gone. 6 months later, the trial began. Corinne sat in the courtroom every single day, front row, directly in Brad Hoffman's line of sight. She wanted him to see her, wanted him to know she wasn't afraid anymore. The prosecution had built an airtight case. The thumb drive, the phone records, the testimony of forensic psychiatrists who detailed Brad's methodical planning. The parents of the 12 victims filled the gallery, a chorus of grief demanding justice. But Brad's defense attorney, a slick corporate lawyer named Richard Vance, had a strategy. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Vance said in his opening statement, this is a case about a woman's delusions. Corinne Thompson, driven mad by grief, has constructed an elaborate fantasy to explain her son's accidental drowning. She's dragged my client, a respected businessman, into her paranoid narrative. Corinne's hands clenched in her lap. Beside her, Marcus whispered, "Don't react, that's what he wants." The prosecution will show you videos, Vance continued. But they can't prove when those videos were recorded. They can't prove chain of custody. And they certainly can't prove my client had anything to do with the tragic deaths of these children. Morrison, sitting 2 rows back, leaned forward. He's going to claim the evidence was planted, that you manufactured it all. And that's exactly what happened. For 3 weeks, Vance attacked every piece of evidence. The thumb drive could have been created by anyone with basic video editing skills. The phone records, circumstantial. The drugs found in Brad's home, legally prescribed medication for his anxiety. My client, Vance said on cross-examination of Morrison, has been the victim of a witch hunt. A grieving mother, enabled by an overzealous detective, has destroyed an innocent man's life. But the prosecution had an ace. On the fourth week, they called Thomas Brenner to the stand. Except it wasn't Thomas Brenner who walked through the courtroom doors. It was a woman, mid-40s, auburn hair, wearing a simple black dress. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in years. "State your name for the record," the prosecutor said. "Diane Brenner." Corinne's head snapped up. Brenner, Thomas Brenner's wife, the one he'd said killed herself. But she was alive. "Ms. Brenner, can you tell the court about your relationship to the defendant?" "I hired him 4 years ago. I hired Brad Hoffman to kill my husband." The courtroom erupted. The judge hammered his gavel, shouting for order. Brad's face had gone white. "Let me explain," Diane continued, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "My husband Thomas was obsessed with finding our son's killer. It consumed him. He spent all our savings, lost his job, stopped eating, stopped sleeping. He became someone I didn't recognize." She looked directly at Brad. "And then one day, he figured it out. He came home and told me everything, about the pattern of disappearances, about the man who was always nearby, about his theory. He said he was going to confront Brad Hoffman, make him confess." "What happened next?" the prosecutor asked gently. "Thomas disappeared, just like our son, and I knew Brad had killed him too, but I had no proof. The police thought Thomas had abandoned me, or worse, that he'd," her voice broke, "that he'd hurt himself." "So you hired the defendant?" "No, I became him." Diane pulled out her phone, tapped the screen. "I created the Thomas Brenner persona, used my husband's law degree and credentials, started building a case against Brad, feeding information to the police, to Corinne Thompson, to anyone who would listen." Morrison was furiously typing notes. Corinne couldn't breathe. "I knew Brad was smart," Diane continued. "Knew he'd never confess, never leave evidence lying around. So I waited, watched. And when I saw him fixating on Corinne Thompson, saw him using her the same way he'd used other parents, I knew I had my chance." "You manipulated the investigation." "I guided it, the thumb drive. I stole it from Brad's home office 2 years ago when I broke in. Kept it safe until the time was right. The evidence, the photos, all real, all his. I just made sure it got into the right hands at the right time." Vance was on his feet. "Objection, this witness is admitting to multiple felonies." "And implicating your client in 12 murders, the prosecutor shot back. "Sit down, counselor." The judge allowed it. Diane turned to the jury. "My husband is dead, my son is dead, and Brad Hoffman killed them both. Everything I did to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else. To make sure Corinne Thompson didn't end up like me, broken and alone and destroyed." "Ms. Brenner," the prosecutor said, "did you fabricate any evidence against Brad Hoffman?" "No, every video, every document, every piece of proof came from him. I just put the pieces together." "And the night you appeared to Corinne Thompson as a ghost, as Thomas?" For the first time, Diane smiled, small and sad. "I never appeared to her. That was something else, something I don't understand. My husband maybe, or—" She shook her head. "I don't know, but it wasn't me." The prosecution rested. During recess, Corinne found Diane in the hallway. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. I'm going to prison for breaking and entering, tampering with evidence, identity fraud." Diane's eyes were hollow. "But at least I'll know he can't hurt anyone else." "The children in the pool, they were real. I saw them. Your son, all of them." Diane's composure finally cracked. Did Jacob say anything?" "He said his daddy loved him very much." Diane sobbed once, then pulled herself together. "That's enough. That's more than enough." The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brad showed no emotion as the verdict was read, but when the judge asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, he stood. "I regret nothing," he said calmly. "Those children were wasted on their parents, neglected, ignored. I gave them purpose. I gave them." "Sit down," the judge said coldly, "before I hold you in contempt on top of everything else." The judge sentenced Brad to 12 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. As the bailiffs led him away in chains, Brad looked at Corinne one last time. "Your son screamed for you, underwater. Did you know that? Called for mommy as he drowned." Marcus lunged, but security held him back. Karen just smiled. I know, and I know you heard him calling for you too, every night, in your dreams, 12 voices screaming your name, and they'll never stop. For the first time, Brad's mask cracked. Fear flashed across his face before the bailiffs dragged him away. Diane Brenner pled guilty to her crimes and received 2 years in a minimum security facility. Karen and Marcus attended her sentencing, watching as the judge acknowledged Diane's role in bringing a serial killer to justice while also holding her accountable for breaking the law. You did what the system couldn't, the judge said. But justice must be served properly within the bounds of the law. I hope you find peace, Ms. Brenner. As Diane was led away, she stopped beside Karen's row. Take care of Lily. Don't let work or grief or anything else make you look away from her, not even for a second. I won't, Karen promised. Never again. The memorial was held on a clear Saturday in June, 1 year after the trial ended. In a park overlooking the ocean, 12 trees were planted, one for each victim. Plaques bearing their names and photos. Parents gathered, holding hands, crying, remembering. Karen stood before Hoa's tree with Lily and Marcus. Her daughter, 14 now, taller, stronger, but still fragile in ways that might never heal, placed a toy dinosaur at the base. He always wanted to go to the beach, Lily said quietly, to see the ocean. I know, Karen wrapped her arm around her daughter. I'm sorry I didn't take him more. I'm sorry I blamed you. Lily leaned into her mother, for everything. You had every right to. No, I didn't, Dad explained it all, what that man did to you, how he made you forget. Lily looked up, eyes fierce. You saved me, Mom, you stopped him. We stopped him, me, Detective Morrison, Diane, and... Karen looked at the ocean, at the sunlight dancing on the waves. And Hoa, your brother, helped too. Marcus cleared his throat. I think he's still helping. Karen followed his gaze. In the distance at the water's edge, 12 children played, building sandcastles, chasing waves, laughing in the afternoon sun. They flickered like heat mirages, there and not there. One of them, small, dark-haired, wearing red swim trunks, turned and waved. Karen waved back, tears streaming down her face. Are you seeing them too? Lily whispered. Yeah, baby, I am. Good, Lily took her mother's hand. I'm glad I'm not crazy. You're not crazy, neither am I, we just... Karen searched for the right words. We just see what others can't, the truth that lives beneath the surface. They stood together, the three of them, watching the ghost children play until the sun began to set and the figures faded with the light. Karen never built another pool. The backyard became a garden instead, flowers and vegetables and a small fountain that Lily designed. No standing water, no reflections, just life growing stubbornly despite everything. She quit her corporate job and became a victim's advocate, helping families navigate the aftermath of violence. She testified before Congress about the dangers of work-obsessed parenting culture. She wrote a book, Looking Away, a mother's journey through grief and justice, that became required reading in criminology courses. But most importantly, she paid attention. To Lily's school plays and soccer games and teenage heartbreaks. To Marcus, who moved back in permanently after they both realized the divorce had been grief-driven, not inevitable. To the small moments that built a life, breakfast conversations, movie nights, the sound of her daughter's laughter echoing through their rebuilt home. She kept Hoa's room exactly as it was, not as a shrine but as a reminder of what she'd lost, of what she'd learned, of the price of distraction. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, she'd sit in that room and talk to her son. Tell him about his sister, his father, the garden. Tell him about the good days and bad days, about the therapy and nightmares and slow, painful process of healing. She never saw his reflection again. But she felt him, in the warm breeze through the window, in the way the lights flickered when Lily told a particularly bad joke, in the inexplicable sense of peace that would wash over her in moments of doubt. He was there, watching over them, making sure his mother never looked away again. 5 years after the trial, Karen received a letter. It was from the California State Prison Medical Facility. Brad Hoffman had terminal cancer, 6 months to live, maybe less. He wanted to see her. Karen stared at the letter for 3 days before deciding. Morrison drove her to the prison. You don't have to do this. You don't owe him anything. I know, but I need to. Why? Karen thought about it. Because I need to see if he has any remorse, any humanity left, I need to know if the monster was always there or if he became one. Does it matter? To me, yes, because I need to understand how I missed it, how I looked right at evil and saw nothing. The prison was exactly as grim as expected, concrete and razor wire and the smell of industrial cleaner failing to mask decay. Brad was in the infirmary wing, hooked to machines, his once robust frame wasted by disease. He smiled when he saw her. "Karen, you look well." She sat in the chair across from his bed, Morrison standing behind her like a guardian angel. "I got your letter. I'm dying pancreatic cancer. Poetic, isn't it? All those chemicals I used to." "Well," he coughed, liquid and painful. "I suppose karma exists after all." "Why did you want to see me?" "To say I'm sorry." Karen waited. "I'm sorry you were weak enough to manipulate. Sorry you were so obsessed with your career that you couldn't see what was happening around you. Sorry your son had a mother who valued conference calls over his life." Morrison's hand landed on Karen's shoulder, holding her back. Karen breathed, counted to 10. "You wanted me to come here so you could blame me one more time. I wanted you to come here so you could hear the truth you already know but won't admit." Brad's eyes glittered with fever and malice. "You killed your son just as surely as I did. You just didn't get your hands wet." "No," Karen's voice was steel. "You killed 12 children because you're a monster, because you enjoyed it, because you're fundamentally broken in ways that have nothing to do with anyone's parenting." "Keep telling yourself that." "I will because it's true," Karen stood. "You wanted me to leave here feeling guilty, broken. You wanted one final victory." She leaned over his bed. "But I'm not that woman anymore. I know what I did wrong. I know what I could have done differently, and I live with that every day." She moved toward the door, then turned back. "But your guilt, your crimes, your choices to hurt innocent children, those are on you, only you. And in 6 months when you die in this bed, alone and unmourned, you'll take that truth to whatever hell is waiting for you." Brad's face twisted with rage. "I hope you drown, I hope you." But Karen was already walking away, Morrison beside her, leaving Brad's curses echoing in the sterile air. Outside in the parking lot, Karen breathed the free air and felt lighter than she had in years. "You okay?" Morrison asked. "Yeah, I really am." Karen looked at the sky, blue and clear and infinite. "He was wrong about everything, and I'm done letting him have any power over me." They drove back to Lowe's Angels as the sun set, painting the world in shades of gold and amber. Karen's phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "Movie night? Your turn to pick. If you choose another documentary, I'm disowning you." Karen smiled and typed back, "Fine, you can pick, but I reserve veto power over anything with excessive explosions." "That's literally every good movie, Mom." "Exactly," smiling face with smiling eyes. The emoji felt good, normal, like maybe they'd be okay. Like maybe they already were. Brad Hoffman died 3 months later, alone in his prison bed, calling out names that nurses didn't recognize. 12 names, over and over, screaming for mercy that never came. Karen didn't attend his funeral. No one did, except the prison chaplain who performed a perfunctory service before Brad's body was cremated and his ashes scattered in an unmarked plot. The day he died, Karen was at the beach with her family. They'd brought a picnic, sandwiches and fruit and the chocolate chip cookies that Hoa used to love. Marcus and Lily were in the water, splashing and laughing, while Karen sat on the blanket and watched. Watched without fear, without looking away, fully present in the moment. A child's voice drifted on the wind. "Thank you, Mommy." Karen turned, but no one was there. Just the ocean and sky and the sound of her daughter's laughter. "You're welcome, baby," she whispered. "You can rest now, we're okay, I promise we're okay." The wind picked up, warm and gentle, and Karen felt something release in her chest. The last chain of guilt and grief breaking free, letting her breathe fully for the first time in 6 years. Lily ran up from the water, dripping and grinning. "Mom, come in, the water's perfect." Karen hesitated for only a second. Then she stood, took her daughter's hand, and walked into the waves. The ocean was cool and clear, and there were no ghosts in the water. No reflections but her own. No voices but the living, her daughter, her husband, the seagulls overhead. As a wave washed over her feet, Karen looked out at the horizon and made a promise. To Hoa, to the 11 other children, to herself. "I will never look away again." And she never did.